Today we're going to be talking about bloodborne pathogens. We're going to talk a little bit about incident reporting and also have two fairly quick videos on sun safety. So what are bloodborne pathogens? And so this is an interactive class. The quicker that Terry can answer these questions, the quicker we get done. What are bloodborne pathogens? They're pathogenic organisms present in human blood that can lead to diseases. So the primary risks that we hear about are hepatitis B, C, and then HIV. Hepatitis B, over 12 million Americans are infected. That's 1 in 20. So if you kind of think about that, most likely we know somebody personally that is infected with this. We may not, know, but they do have it. And the crazy thing, hepatitis B can survive at least 1 week in dried blood. So, if I cut myself and bleed on this counter and it dries for 1 week, it could still have some of these diseases in it. Up to 40,000 people in the U.S. will become infected each year. 50% of the infected people are unaware. A lot of times this causes liver failure, and they don't actually learn they have this disease when their liver starts giving them issues. Hepatitis C is the most chronic bloodborne infection in the U.S. So this is one you hear about in the news. A lot of celebrities, will get it, and you'll hear about it. Also, again, lead to liver disease and death. And approximately 3.2 million people in the U.S. have it. And the same thing as hepatitis B, most people don't find out they are infected with it until they start having liver issues. Then HIV, I think a lot of us learn about this in school. Estimated more than 1.1 million people are living with HIV. And of course, you're, I think, infected for life still. I think they're got some new medical prescription stuff that's doing some wonderful things, I guess. Other bloodborne diseases, so those are caused by viruses or bacteria. The common stuff you hear about are the Zika and the Ebola virus. So a lot of those can be spread through bugs. Contamination sources. So blood, what are some, we're going to go back so you guys can't read that. So what are some other bodily fluids, or how can you be infected? What are you doing? Saliva. Is it me coughing on you at all? Wow, active group today. Terry? Everything? Fecal matter? Air droplets. Levi remembers last year. Or any unfixed tissue or organ. If I get stabbed and part of my tissue is laying out and then Chad walks up and grabs it. So how do we spread a bloodborne pathogen? So what is direct contact? Touching it. So touching the blood, touching the fluid. Indirect contact, anybody? Sneezing, or if I bled on this protein shake, I hand it to Lydia, she grabs it, now she has my blood on her. So indirect. What is it?
Wastewater.
It would be a potentially infectious material. It wouldn't be indirect. Now, if wastewater got on this controller and then I touched it, yeah, that'd be indirect contact. Respiratory transmission. This is the nasty one, I think, is like if I cough and my droplets get into Lance's mouth or something like that, which is disgusting to think of that can actually happen. Vector-borne, anybody know what that one is? So that's like bug transmission.
I got a question.
No questions allowed, but go ahead, James.
What if I cut my arm bleeding and it's like bleeding in both arms and I can't, what do I do?
So, your blood, if you are infected with one of those diseases or any other diseases. So that's what we're here to talk about. And we'll go through that too, what to do. So obviously your blood if it is infectious, you're already infected with whatever you may or may not have. It's up to Kenny or the person rendering first aid to protect themselves. So the city has an exposure control plan. Basically, the exposure control plan is to determine concerning which employees may have an elevated exposure to blood infectious material. Wastewater operators, water operators, I don't know what PD offers for their officers, but our operators are offered the Hep B shots, series of 3. Temporary workers, so like pool staff and I think latchkey, are not offered the 3 series because it's a 6-month process to get all your shots, and by the time that's, at least for lifeguard staff, by the time that's done, the summer's already over. The contaminated laundry, I did not check into this. I'm not sure if they still take it to alterations or if that even exists anymore, but if you do your normally daily operations, if you get it on your uniform, contact your supervisor and they can point you in the right direction. I already talked about Hep V vaccines. So the exposure control plan outlines the post-exposure evaluation and follow-up. So there's a separate form if you get exposed to having an incident that you fill out separate from the incident report. Controlling exposures, we always are going to treat blood or any other bloody fluids as if they are contaminated. The reason why I bring up those, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV is because that is the risk. I mean, I do not want to be any of my guys or any of us here, for that matter, doing their normal routine job and don't take the precautions and touch this material, and now they're infected for life. I mean, one bad decision, hey, I'll clean it up real quick, no big deal. And then next thing you know, maybe 10, 20 years down the road, you start having a liver failure and you have no idea how you got hepatitis B or C. So, I mean, these small decisions we make can affect us or our families forever. So treat it all as it's contaminated, proper cleanup and decontamination. Does anybody remember the proper dilution rate for bleach? 1 to 10. So personal protective equipment, what are some of the items we're going to use to clean up that? Are we just going to walk out there in gloves? Face masks if we need it. I know sometimes we've used the big hazmat type jumpsuit. Safety glasses. Apron, smocks. CPR pocket masks for lifeguards. So your guys' responsibility, it's our job as, the city to provide you with this material. It's your job to make that determination if an event happens to wear it. If we don't have the material available, that's your job as well to let us know that, hey, this safety equipment we don't have any more of it, we need to order more, or maybe it doesn't function properly. Also care and clean and maintain it. It's in this training. Ask questions and notify us when repairs or replacement are needed. Cleanup and decontamination. Wear the gloves and all of the personal protective equipment. Use the appropriate disinfectant. How long do you, the dried blood, should you let that bleach? After you wipe it up and you spray it with the 1 to 10 solution, how long should you leave it there before it technically kills any bacteria or viruses in the blood?
5 minutes.
30 minutes. 30 minutes. So not only that, but also clean and disinfect contaminated equipment and work surfaces. If I spill something here, I'm probably going to disinfect this in case the next person doesn't grab it and potentially get blood on it. Also, after you get done cleaning up, what do you want to do? Wash yourself or your hands with hot water, soap, and of course, properly dispose of contaminated PPE and towels and rags, or etc., in your biohazard bags. I think everybody knows where those are at, right? So when an exposure occurs, so what is it? What is an exposure? We can read so you guys can cheat. So that indirect, the direct, the vector-borne, those type of incidents happen. What do we always do? We always treat it as it is contaminated. So immediate actions: wash the exposed area with soap and water. If you got it in your eyes or nose, wash that area as well. Report the exposure immediately to your supervisor, who will then also notify the department head and also the city clerk's department. Fill out the exposure incident report, which remember is separate from the normal incident report, and that'll be forwarded to the city clerk's department. The city clerk will make an appointment with a healthcare facility if it is determined that testing is necessary. So like personally, if I had experience with this when I was fixing a main break, the sewer line got hit, in the efforts to fix the water main break quickly, we were basically swimming in wastewater. So, we have cuts and nicks on us. So at that time, I was sent for testing at our healthcare facility. And it's one of those things, where they tell you that you don't know if you have anything. You're waiting on tests for an entire week and you're waiting, hey, do you have any of these diseases? So it's not fun. Immediate actions. And so we're going to switch topics here a little bit. So we're going to talk about just workplace injury in general. So not just bloodborne exposure, but workplace. And I think most of us know this, but we're just going to try to hit it in your head again. So assess the situation or injury. Our goal is to treat the medical condition or the incident that happened first. Whoever's on scene makes a judgment, whether or not 911 needs to be called, or is it something just first aid and maybe we schedule a doctor's appointment. But of course, if 911 is necessary, call that. That's your first thing to do, is get them help. And of course, render first aid if necessary and you're properly trained. If something major happened and you're not trained, like Kyle, he has some experience on first aid and emergency scene stuff, and obviously law enforcement as well. Term of the doctor's appointment is necessary. If so, those are always held at Hayesville Family Med Center, and those are always scheduled through the city clerk's department. Complete a city-issued incident report as soon as possible, and of course, get your first aid, your medical first, and then soon after, do your incident report. If you're seen by a doctor, like I said, Hayesville Family Med is our work comp doctor. It is our only one. Basically, if you go there and you need to be seen by a specialist, there's proper procedures. So you can't just get hurt and go to a doctor or go to your family doctor. If you're seen by them, they will give you a authorization for workers' comp medical treatment form before you leave the office. So we're saying you get hurt, you're going to go to Hayesville Family Med Center. They're going to give you this sheet back. It's an important sheet because if you have any restrictions, it tells the city clerk's department, your supervisor, and your department head what limitations you may or may not have. So it's very important that when you leave the office, you get that back, because again, the city doesn't want you going above and beyond whatever your injury is and getting hurt even worse. So make sure they give that back. If they don't, ask them. If not, get with city clerk's department. I already said that. So notify your supervisor or assistant city clerk of all follow-up appointments, and follow your plan that your doctor's given you. If they lay you out for a specialist or physical therapy, I mean, if you schedule an appointment, go to it. I mean, we want you to get healed 100%. So participate fully in your treatment. Prescriptions for all work-related injuries must be filled at Hayesville Health Mart. I'm sure I will talk about this. You guys seen this before. We kind of put this together because, we have people who work 24/7. We got on-call guys that can get called out at any time. So obviously Hayesville Family Med Center isn't open 24/7. So this little flow chart that should be hung up at every place kind of tells you about any situation we run into, where to go if you get injured on the job. And it also talks about prescriptions. So that's what the incident report looks like. So I did this one for the lifeguard people. So we're not going to go through it very quickly, or we'll go through it very quickly.
Is that still only fill-outable on the computer, or is there papers?
I mean, you can print the PDF and fill it out if you'd like.
Okay.
At least I know from our department, we'll transcribe it digitally just so there's no issues with reading it. So for this one, I'm going to be a lifeguard.
You were really born in '83?
Yes, sir. So how did the incident occur? You want to describe in as much detail as possible what you were doing. So I was diving in the water to save a drowning child. I slipped on the guard stand as I was jumping and fell and hit my head with blood gushing. So that's what happened. That's how I got injured. How many hours was employee on duty prior to incident? So that's important because if I've already worked 12 hours or 15 hours or longer and then I get hurt, we can look at, was I just too tired? Should I not have been here in the first place? If injured, what was employee doing when injury occurred? So I was saving the child at the guard stand. So again, be as detailed as you can. Kind of the role that the safety committee, we don't see any of this information other than, what the incident was and what caused it. But that helps us kind of determine if there's maybe some extra training we need to provide, or if there's a hole in the courtroom that 5 people have fallen into repeatedly that we can know to go fix it. The substance or the object that directly caused injury, so the lifeguard stand and concrete, something like this, I might say, hey, Jill, was the lifeguard stand, did it operate fine? Did the chair break, or did the guy just slip? Of course, if you're involved in a vehicle, provide that. Describe in detail the nature and extent of the injury, indicate the part of the body. So like this one, I could have just said, hey, cut on my head, and that could have been it. So as much detail as possible. So I had a 2-inch gash on the top of my head, just above the left side of the forehead. So again, be as detailed as possible. If you have a witness to injury, put that down. So sometimes like this worker admitted to hospital or a doctor's appointment, we had one just last week to where they filled the incident report out and then they did go to the doctor. So we had actually 2 incident reports where we updated it with the new doctor information. And again, you see these NAs here so that department heads know and the city clerk's office knows that one, you didn't go to the hospital. Instead of just leaving it blank, And we may assume, well, did they or did they not? Put an NA or put something there knowing that you didn't go. So I got stitches for this one. So describe in a little bit of detail what medical treatment you got. And the big one, and it can be difficult at times, what could have been done to prevent this incident from occurring. And again, the sole purpose of this is us to look at, is there a history of certain type of incidents that we need to look at, either more training or maybe just repairing something. Questions on any of this stuff? You guys seem like a very thrilled group. No? So we got 2 very short videos on sun stuff, probably 4 or 5 minutes total.
Earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods can be deadly, but heat waves kill more people than all other weather conditions combined. You should know how heat affects you so you can avoid becoming a casualty. Physical problems from prolonged heat waves are caused by the body's inability to maintain normal body temperature. Although statistically, people over age 65 are the most likely to suffer from heat waves, heat affects people of all ages, including active and healthy young people. We have all seen the news stories where a young person drops dead after sustained physical exertion on a hot day. If you have any health-related conditions or risk factors like cardiovascular or respiratory problems, you are in more danger because your exposure while working in long periods of high temperatures increases sharply. Your body gives you clues when it is being put under stress in hot weather. Signs and symptoms of heat stress include lack of sweating, hot, dry skin, headaches, weakness, dizziness, nausea, lack of appetite, shortness of breath, and vomiting. But everyone can avoid danger from overexertion in hot weather by knowing how to keep their core body temperature controlled. Here are 7 ways to beat the heat. 1. Allow yourself to become acclimatized to working in hot weather. Take time to get used to it. Your body can take up to 2 weeks to get used to warmer temperatures, especially if you are performing vigorous, sustained physical activity. 2. Drink small amounts of water more frequently than usual. In other words, drink them on a schedule rather than just when you are thirsty. By the time you are feeling thirsty, you may have already lost enough fluid to affect your performance. If you are taking medications, find out from your healthcare provider if your medications and heat don't mix. 3. Eat smaller meals before work activity. It helps to eat smaller meals, but to eat them more frequently. 4. Avoid alcohol or large amounts of sugar. Both have dehydrating effects. 5. If you are working directly in the sun, doing vigorous, strenuous activity, take more frequent, short breaks in cool shade. 6. Cool your skin frequently. Cool off in front of a fan. Wrap a wet towel around your neck during a break, or use cooling bandanas or neck wraps. 7. Avoid direct exposure to the sun as much as possible. Wear long sleeves, rig shades, use a hat, and wear sunscreen. Use these 7 ways to stay healthy during hot weather. Don't let yourself get beat by the heat.
As I'm sure you know, your body has the ability to naturally cool itself by sweating. However, when you overexert yourself in hot, humid weather, your body is less able to cool itself efficiently. Even a healthy person who experiences a loss of fluids and salts can fall victim to heat exhaustion. Muscular cramps, weakness, rapid but shallow breathing, moist, pale skin, and heavy perspiration are all symptoms of heat exhaustion. If you think you're experiencing heat exhaustion, then be sure to follow these simple tips to avoid further danger. First, remove yourself from the hot environment and get to a cool area. This may be the shade or an air-conditioned vehicle. Second, Loosen or remove clothing to cool the body. Third, if you are not nauseated, take small sips of water. Fourth, if possible, lie down and elevate your legs. Fifth, if you are experiencing muscular cramps, apply moist towels over cramped muscles. Heat emergencies are serious to a person's health, so when the temperatures outside start to climb, be sure to stay hydrated, wear loose-fit clothing, apply the sunscreen, put on a hat, and stay in cool, well-shaded areas. I'm Crystal De La Rosa, your Transit TV EMT, reporting from Safety Zone. I'm Crystal De La Rosa.
So what are the symptoms that she mentioned here of heat exhaustion?
Cramps.
That's the only one, people, really? Profuse sweating.
And then no sweat.
No sweating. Yeah, so weakness, rapid breathing, moist, pale skin. And you know, the biggest thing I've actually witnessed this and seen people go through this, I mean, they just are not themselves, period. And for any of you who've seen somebody go through some of this stuff, it's almost like an out-of-body experience. You know, they think that they're okay, but you can look at Kyle and be like, Kyle's not okay. So, you know, talking to like Jill over at the life pool, she gets a lot of this with patrons coming over to the pool and not staying dehydrated and swimming all day. She said the best thing you can do is put like cool rags or towels underneath their armpits or their groins. That's the best way to get their body temperature down. But I mean, look out for each other, I think, is the biggest thing that we can do. You know, take breaks if needed, and drink lots of water. Any questions from anybody?